Good morning and welcome to another edition of Roadhouse Live. We are live. Today is June 16, 2023, on the eve of a nice long 3-day weekend. We're coming into a market that has been absolutely just neck breaking on fire to the upside. Everything continues to look more or less the same. Ups to the ups to the ups. A little bit of news floating around this morning. Apparently, Virgin Space, whatever we want to call it, is actually a real stock because they're actually going to, try to fly some rockets and whatnot. So it's up instead of being down. Goldman Sachs is under scrutiny for maybe doing shady shit when it came to Silicon Valley. Maybe, allegedly, possibly, but they're investigating potentially shady shit with Goldman Sachs. SoFi, fan favorite, gets a downgrade from Bank of America, said, "You are getting too big for your britches. We must punch you in the face." Thank you, Bank of America. NVIDIA gets yet another upgrade. And in other news, Adobe reports well, kind of, sort of, maybe guides, kind of, sort of, maybe guides up, kind of, sort of, just depending on how you want to read through it. With this being said, Bender, I really don't have shit. We're going into a long weekend. We got 4 witches in town. They're going to try to fuck me left, right, and sideways. I don't know that I have it in me today, buddy. I just don't. I don't know that I have it in me to sit here and watch witches try to twiddle my diddle. How about you?
Witches try to twiddle your diddle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Look, I mean, obviously with OPEX, crazy shit can happen or nothing can happen. No idea. I don't intend to do a whole lot today. In fact, I got some fires burning that I'm going to try to keep going today. But let's take a look at these charts. Here. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. Well, I say let's take a look at these charts. Is there anything else in the news while I try to figure out where this oh, here we go. All right. You threw me off this morning. You messed up our process. And
you didn't make it idiot proof. I asked you nicely to make it idiot proof.
And it was idiot proof. I mean, I showed you exactly what needed to be
almost
done.
All the way there. I just don't know how to add myself. That's really where I came up empty, right?
Okay. Here's the chart. Here's the screen.
Look, there's the chart.
There's the chart. All right. So I'm going to go to the daily real quick.
Oh my God.
To show. Yeah. So we were looking at this 44.55. You just laugh.
I'm sorry. And then, wow. Please go ahead. I'm muting myself. Please go.
Okay. So we were looking at this 44.55. The highs from August, which obviously we got the pop up above that. And you have this shaded box here. You can see that this is part of this daily fair value gap, right? That goes all the way up to 45.08. So I'll just throw a line right there, 45.08. But this shaded box comes from the 60-minute. Phil was asking me yesterday. He said, well, I have the fair value gap going up, quite a bit higher. And it does. That daily fair value gap is higher. If I go to a 60-minute and scroll back here, you can see kind of where that comes from. Right here, you had this area in here kind of act as support and then fire up, came back down, acted as resistance, and then finally broke through it. So when I zoom in on a 15-minute, this is actually a 15-minute fair value gap as well. So that's why I have this box where I have it. Now, if it gets through there, you can see you've got another right here. There's a 60-minute fair value gap that you can see right there. Gets through that, then you have this previous, what acted as resistance here before that moved down. That comes in 45.2375. Now if I go back to current where we're at. You can see we're in that shaded box there. We have this high here from yesterday, 44.85 half. Above that, the top of the shaded box, 44.90 half. Above 44.90, then we're looking at 4,500. Above that, you got that 45.09 half. As far as below, if, God forbid we get some red candles at some point, we're looking at this pre-market, what was that, overnight low, 45, what is that, 44.59 half right there. And then you can see, all this stuff all the way up. Go to a 15-minute here. And, Brad, Chad, and Thad are somewhere back here. These moves up, there is some stuff to fill in. This dotted line here, again, that was that previous trend line, and you can see when we broke it, you can see the result once that was broken, right? So I don't know if, there's something like, I don't know, trillions of dollars in options expiring, right? I don't know what what kind of an impact that will have, but I gave you the levels above there. Again, that 44.59.75 overnight low, kind of the level to watch. As far as, something a little bit closer, that 44.68.75. So below that, 44.62 half, and then 44.59.75. If it gets below that and it can't reclaim it, then we can start talking about this trend line here as a potential retest, right?
Can you really call
And
that a
below
trend line?
that, 44.40.
It
is a trend line.
So vertical is a trend line?
Oh, well, this is a trend line because we rejected it twice before breaking through it. Okay. If I go back to the daily chart here, the trend line is not exactly vertical, right? There. That's on a daily.
Okay, so you're referring to something different. Okay.
Yeah.
I misunderstood what you were saying.
Yeah. So we had two taps on it. And the first time we came up and sniffed it, let's go back to a 60-minute. We didn't quite hit it. We got, I don't know, within a couple handles of it before pulling back, and then got that kind of explosion up and through. So yeah, it's there, right? Again, below that 44.59.75, maybe they retest that trend line. If this thing does start to cool off, again, we can see all this stuff here that we could see some back and fill type action, which, eventually we should get eventually. But for now, thing just keeps going higher. So no need to try to get in front of it. No need to, again, we were talking about this yesterday afternoon, after the bell. No need to try to call it, right? Just be patient and either don't be offsides. Either as long as the move is to the upside, play it to the upside. It's just hard for me in here because, again, we're close to some of these areas that taking out that previous high. We talked about that yesterday morning, right? I said, well, I really would have liked to see it take out that high, that old high. We were like 20 points away from it. And we got a little dip, yesterday, and then we went and took it, and then it kept going. So, what's the next objective? Well, again, going back to where this shaded box came from, it's like, okay, well, go fill that in if that's what they want. Might as well take 4,500, and then maybe that 4,509 if they want to keep pushing up. Yeah, I think it's difficult for me because, again, we're close enough to some of those levels. It's not like there's a whole bunch more room for me to go, okay, well, I see another 30, 40 handles in here. No, we're at some areas that I would expect, that could potentially maybe act as some resistance. So that's it. That's what I got.
What's this resistance thing you mentioned?
Well, it's a myth.
Okay.
Legend has it that that occasionally there's it's kind of like like a bridge troll, and every now and then, like normally you just walk across the bridge and everything's fine, but occasionally that troll comes out from under the bridge and he's like, "You shall not pass."
So
but
then
nobody's ever seen him. So
okay, so then kind of like what support was when we dipped down to that three.
Yeah, when we were selling through every potential line of support and stocks that should not have gotten their asses kicked and did, and we just kept going lower, and you're like, where the hell are they taking this thing?
So then sometimes these things don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, like we've said before, they're meant to, lines of support and resistance are meant to be broken in periods of strong momentum.
Got it. This has been profound this morning. Profound. This is what we do here. Sonny, what you got, buddy?
Well, and we tell you what day tomorrow is. But yeah.
I have nothing. He already covered the upgrades, downgrades, and the news.
That was it.
My job for me at the open.
I'm sorry. I just that's all I had. It's like there's nothing going on. It's like
it's just there's nothing going on. I mean, just a couple of spec news. It's like you said, space is space. So that's news, I guess.
Actually, here's one thing I'll add real quick. Since we don't have Stonkington this morning, we got a couple extra minutes. Hells, yesterday we were talking about given that we're at some of these levels, you're like, well, what do I do with my, do I sell this one? Do I, what do we do with these? And, I think it's still good to focus on individual names, right? Because as there are times individual names just kind of defy
market
the market.
Yeah.
And if something, still has a ton of room and has, established some base of support, and you're looking at it going, well, the market's at areas that could act as resistance, but the stock that I'm in, is sitting on a level of strong support, and it's, has room to push, then it doesn't. And again, what I'm talking about, as you said yesterday, it is not that I'm by any means bearish, right? It's just, okay, we need to cool off a little bit, and I'm looking for another dip to enter on. So if, the market is bullish right now. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't still. It doesn't mean that I'm not still going to buy good names. I'm not liquidating everything. I take some profit on some stuff and hope for another entry. But market is bullish. So until it's not, now I'm looking more at individual names. That's it.
Well, there you have it.
They have it.
Yeah, it's like I don't know what you can do with it one way or the other, because calling the top has been a fool's errand when people,
Oh, absolutely.
including myself, played with it to be like, okay, there's no way we're gonna take 420, 430, 440, but I didn't understand why we were ever at 380, right?
Right.
So it's like that's like one of those in betweens for me, that it's like this market is just not working for me. Is it working for my longer term positions? Sure. But this market is not working for me the way I want it to work. So it's like when last night I was just kind of scrolling through futures, like, okay, red. So maybe we get a little pullback reset. I wake up and everything's green. And it's for me, it's just like, I don't want to sit here and try to chase a couple of percentage points to the upside just to fold out, 20, 30 minutes later, being like, okay, so that move's done. There's just some things intertwined with all this that it's like, I literally.
Well, that's what I was just saying, right?
It's like I literally,
if there's not enough room,
like it's like, you ever seen how like when there's looting, and people go in and everybody's just snatching and grabbing and loading up and all that kind of stuff, and the first ones in are the ones getting away clean. I feel like at this point, it's like running into that building to try to get some busted up candy bars and maybe some clothes that don't fit you, is not going to work out real well. It's like that's the feeling that I have, and that's like this overhanging deal. It's like when you have like smart people that are pretty neutral. Yesterday, so people posting, oh, we're this far removed from this Bollinger Band or this other indicator, like it, and this and that, and then I go ahead and I look up, CMO on the weekly, on and monthly and daily across pretty much all dynamics, and it's just like, what the fuck? It's like, it feels like at this point, if you're running it into the building to go ahead and try to loot, which is really what it feels like at this point, much like it did to the downside. Remember that on the downside, and we've talked about this a couple of times, so it's important to reiterate, when we were down there pegging around that 360 level, you could not find a bullish scenario in any capacity based off that chart, other than it is so fucking ugly and disgusting, it can't possibly get any worse. It can't look any worse than what it did when it was pegging that 460 level. Oh, sorry, 360 level.
Right.
So now it's like the inverse of it. You couldn't find a bullet, but where do we bounce? We bounce right in that area. It's like you can't find a bearish scenario in this. It's so just, and it's crazy. It's like you can't call it a beautiful bullish setup because it really lacks a lot of structure. Over the last, I'd say 150, 200 points, there's no structure. So
yeah, I mean, hey, I think we've talked about this a couple times this week. Like, yeah, you don't want to have to chase, right? We can't do that. So if you weren't already long some names, it's like, is now the time to get in? For me personally, it's like, well, I need to get a pullback on some stuff. SoFi pulling back off these comments at $9. Do you get in at $9? I don't know.
It's like that's the thing.
Their comment was that the decision on student loans is quote unquote priced in.
Which I agree with that it is, but it's like, but so then what's it the valuation there, Bank of America? It's like
Right.
I agree with that.
And do you listen to what they say the value, what it should
Right,
be?
right.
I mean,
That's the whole
or are
thing.
they trying to create a dip to,
And how the fuck is
you know,
Bank of America going to say shit about shit when they can't even get above 30? They need to cool out
yeah.
over there thinking that they know anything about anything. You just need to stop. But I think that goes back to like this thing that they're investigating Goldman for this some what sounds as if on the surface, and I say allegedly, some pretty fucking shady shit over there. It's like you're basically complicit in some capacity in the failure of a bank. That's allegedly what maybe they're, I can't say allegedly enough, investigating. It's weird. Really weird.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Well, I I think you say weird without saying allegedly. I think the allegedly is when you talk about the actual thing. Or would you just say allegedly every other word
Uh,
so you ensure that you can't be sued? I think that's how that works.
All right. Son, were you, do you have, you got some more stuff you want to cover?
Nothing too serious.
All right. So what somebody asked, Study Music asked if we could cover AVGO.
Flow is bullish.
Okay.
Couple of little bearish lines. They've been pushing it, trying to get it pushed over 900 for the last 2 weeks. There's been 900 flow coming in.
As far as the, and this is just looking at the daily, right? I'd have to break into some tighter, shorter time frames, right? But on the daily, it looks like, you know, this, I was throwing fibs on here to get extensions off some of these moves. But if we look at the move from, was that May 24th, measuring this move right here, this pullback between the, you can see this is to the, that's where the midpoint is, 797.92, which would put the 618 down just a little bit lower. But that pullback and then fire here, you know, if you're looking for what are those extension targets, you know, obviously it's sitting at 881 right now. So you got the 900 whole number, that previous high up there, 922.49. And then if it were to say get above that, that 1272 extension would be 985.52. Go to, let's go into an hourly and see what this looks like. So now that we know where that extension sits, let's find retracement here. There. So you can see they pulled it back right to that 618, right? Wick below, but essentially right to that 618. Again, right, you know, looking at AVGO, I mean, Hell says flow points
Flow
to,
remains, but okay. So, but flow's been bullish for the last week or so, with them targeting that 900 level.
yeah,
I'd have to dig back into it to see if there's anything above. There are a couple of little puts that have come through, but they were, it was more protection based, if you will, you know, out of the money, small dollar amounts. But the push is to get that fucker over 900 sooner rather than later. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. It's like when you give semis an upgrade every other day, just pick one and upgrade them, and it lifts all boats. It's like this thing could be at 1,000 by the middle of next month. It's like they
Yeah.
just if this trend continues, and it's like even if we're looking at some of the charts that are out there, we get these knifes down and then the reflex back, which readjusts any type of overbought, oversold conditions almost instantaneously, or even sideways chop consolidation again readjusts that overbought, oversold condition again to where it can go ahead and make the move. to get where it needs to go. ABGO hasn't exactly had a lot of headline catalysts. They really haven't. I think if anything, it's been slightly negative, some of the catalysts, but it continues to plow. So it's like, in theory, you have to look at that chart and be like, it's like, yeah, no, there's plenty of room for it to wander to the upside. And as long as flow stays bullish, just ride that trend. But I think that's the biggest.
Yeah, I mean, next is, if it essentially takes out that 925, right? Then you're, or 923.80, then you're blue skies. So then you look at those extensions, which we talked about. So.
And you wait for the flow to sour. And right now, flow is not soured. And Bender, I do believe that based on some of the juice that are on these calls, considering that all we do is go up, that the first real sign, there's going to be two signs as far as when we're going to pull back and have a meaningful pullback. Number one, we're going to have the VIX moving to the upside with the markets, which we've seen, right? We've seen that. We're in the middle of it right now with it doing that. So that's one. The other thing that we're not seeing yet, we're not seeing call writing. We're not seeing that. We're still seeing put writing. We are not seeing heavy call writing. So those two things are going to happen. And then within a matter of days, we're going to go ahead and start giving back some of this. But until you see like mass, and I'm not saying profit taking, don't misunderstand what profit taking is versus call writing. I'm not talking about some calls coming on the bid. I'm talking about direct and deliberate. I am writing. Let's use NVIDIA, for example. If we see them coming in and writing 6 or 7, 8 digit flow on NVIDIA 450s, NVIDIA is going to shut the floor within a week. It's going to happen. If we see call writing come in on Tesla, let's say they're writing, heavily writing 300 calls, same thing. It's going to shit out. AMD, we start seeing them heavily writing 130 calls, same thing. But we're not seeing that. We're not seeing that in any capacity. It's like you can find little pockets to where, okay, so they're starting to write some calls there, but it's not on anything that really matters. They're not heavily writing Apple calls. They're not heavily writing any type of calls that are out there. If nothing else, we're still seeing decent levels of put writing.
All right, here's one last chart.
What's that?
This is the dollar.
No, that was the other thing. Yeah. No. Yesterday we came down. I thought we were going to get a good bounce yesterday on the dollar, off of that daily support.
Yeah. So I'll have.
We didn't, by the way. It didn't.
No. I will be watching this chart. Just kind of keep an eye on the dollar. It is in this sort of area that again, it may find some support with quad witching going on. Options flow tends to, could get a bit wonky. It's kind of hard to, and the, the dark pool transactions, that kind of stuff can get a bit wonky.
Volumes will be ridiculous at some point, probably in the last hour of the day, are going to come in just massively. Watching flow is going to be really, really hard, really, really hard today. Like so difficult.
But there are a few things that we can keep an eye on. The dollar being one of them. Like Hell said, the VIX, although, it's been pretty much dead.
It's been dead. Do you remember, several years back to where there was a VIX product that went from like 8 cents to like $100 in like 15 minutes and completely just it's like we had a little mini flash crash. You remember that? It's probably,
I don't know,
8-10 years ago, something like that. Basically, they had gotten two offsides. The VIX had been so heavily shorted that the wheels just broke somehow, and it moonshot, just driving the market into the ground. off of some like little obscure catalyst. With these 0 days on the VIX that they've introduced, it would appear that they are basically on a daily basis just shorting the thing into the fucking ground.
It's, I was watching those 0 days for a while, but they seem to have no impact. Like I was watching the chart of the 0 days, and then, kind of side by side, watching the market, watching the dollar, and watching the VIX, and they didn't seem to have an impact.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
So I don't know.
No.
All right.
But it doesn't have an impact until it does. Now they flip it, and instead of them coming in and let's say they're using SPXW like they've been using as far as like breadcrumbs to upside or downside, they come in and they're just nailing 0 day calls on the VIX. It's like they can short squeeze the VIX like absolute raging psychos if they wanted to. If they wanted to flip that script.
Well, let us know if you see that.
Man, whatever.
All right. Well, we got about 7 minutes till the open.
All right, man. Sonny, thank you for all the breaking information. We really appreciate it. Amazing stuff. Bender, thank you for showing us that charts only go up. Thank you for that also. All right, everybody. Long weekend ahead. Let's have a good day. Let's have a fun day. Let's have fun.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. Market's closed on Monday.
Yeah, let's have fun. Let's have a good time. Don't know what that means, but we'll be creative.
Stonkington did send us I don't know if anybody, you want me to go through any of these? Pretty large dark pool, I guess, on Apple at 186.01. Amazon at 127.11. That was 6.8% average daily volume.
Yeah, but everything goes up. See, green candle. That's it. Is there anything else we need to know? Look at that.
Love, Southwest Airlines, $33.90, 20.3%.
I would have. Aren't we supposed to? Isn't this the day we're supposed to hear from the Supreme Court on the Biden thing, on the student loan thing? Isn't it like the second week in June that they roll out all that stuff?
I don't know. SPY, 10, almost 11%, 442.49.
Yeah,
that's a big one. Bunch. 42.49. Where are we at right now?
442.76. I think SPY had dividend this morning, so its math is a little bit off in relation to everything else.
All right. Well, that's it. We'll catch you in a few.
Let's go do some stuff.
All right.